Good evening. It's 5:17. We'll call this meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everyone that's in the audience with us tonight. If you would please rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Greg, would you mind doing the school board norms for us?
Okay, the norms are decisions will be based on the board's strategic plan, its mission, and what's best for students. The board will act as stewards of tax dollars. Board members will complete foundation work and be prepared for meetings. Meetings will be efficient. All perspectives will be voiced and heard, and all board members will maintain a professional decorum.
Thank you. We have nothing under public communication for this evening. Are there any conflicts of interest to declare? Moving on, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion by Roger, second by Steve. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on to our regular meeting, we have nothing under recognition or correspondence, and moving into reports, we have, looks like nobody from the student council was able to meet us, but I know there's lots of activities happening tonight, so that's okay. So we'll move then into the superintendent's report. Dr. Leck?
Thank you. Quickly, I have the written report in front of you, just to update you quickly on a few different projects. The Blue Jay that we've talked about in the past, the Blue Jay Solar project, which is a bank of solar panels up at the high school. That's in the middle of construction now. You can see the frames if you've driven by, and they're continuing to work on those. That estimated a time of completion there a few weeks, so hopefully that can get up and running in the very near future. Safe routes to school, again, I'm not going to talk a lot about that. We have done so already. We're continuing to work with Interstate Engineering with the design phase there. Some of that's a little bit fluid as we look to other safety measures that we can look to, adding some bump outs at different places, and really just taking that hard look to see, what provides the best safety measures for our students at Jamestown Middle School. And one of the things that we haven't talked about a whole lot, we talked about it initially, but I recognized as I was writing this out that we hadn't spent a lot of time on it recently, was the signage updates. So part of the Safe Routes to School grant is the middle school project, but beyond that, there's also getting consistent signage around all of our schools. And so that's a piece of this grant as well. So we're working with the building principals to see, what does that signage want to look like? Where is it going to be located? And getting feedback on that. So those are the things that we're in the planning designs for. Later in your agenda, you're going to be asked to act on a no-cost temporary easement for construction. That would be for equipment and materials out here as the project is going on in the summer of 2020 in front of the middle school. I outlined the communications committee. That's a committee that exists through the master agreement. Heidi Larson, Danny Giesler, and I are going to be meeting actually this week, discuss different issues that impact staff, administration, and school board. I've listed a few topics that we're going to be visiting about, and as I mentioned in my report, that's really a place where we can just continue conversations that are beyond just the negotiations table, but just a place where we can continue to have conversation. I call it a little bit of an incubator for ideas. So what about this topic? Can we have some conversation? What might this look like? How might policy change, or what happens if this policy changes? Just a place where we can continue to have a communication and talk. Was really excited last week. We had, as part of our TLA, a leadership panel. Really some of our Jamestown is a community of really strong leaders. We were feel very fortunate to have 4 such leaders come and speak to our TLA for about an hour. Greg Allen was one, and he came and spoke along with Mr. Delzer, Louis L'Amour principal, Dr. Polly Peterson from the University of Jamestown, and Monsignor Walt from St. James Basilica, and really just a diverse group of people with different leadership experiences, and we wanted to share that knowledge and experience with the TLA members. I thought it was really excellent. And, one of the things that I made the comment about, and I know Dr. Peterson did too, I think I probably learned as much as anybody just listening to all of these different people that are in different, like I said, had different experiences in leadership, just share their perspective. And I thought it was excellent. And, thank you, Greg, for taking time out of your day. I was telling Jennifer earlier, we were 4 for 4. I called 4 people, and all 4 said, well, absolutely, we'd love to do that. Just another example of our community really supporting education and supporting our school. So, just wanted to pass that along. I think it was just an outstanding learning experience for everybody. The grant applications you have there that you'll be acting on later in your agenda: a CTE grant, an SARE grant, and then a new team growth grant. And that new team growth grant, just to point that out, that would be if we don't receive the NASA grant. This would be what we would then pursue to support FIRST Robotics. In the future, I want to bring Mr. Gaylor in at some point and talk about the Blue Jay Acres project. I think that's just a really, really neat idea. And again, another example of community coming in, supporting school, looking to take the land that's east of the high school and develop that as agricultural land, have our ag ed students support that space. I know we've had already some community partnerships, Egg Country, City Forester, a local honey producer, all that are that are interested in supporting a project like that. You'll hear some board education on project-based at a PBL a little bit later. This is just another example of relevant ways in which we can support learning outside of the classroom and to integrate more areas within that experience. Jamestown High School course offering changes. I just brought this up just so people have a chance to see an early draft of that. There may be more. Some of those things may be changing. Just want to give people the time needed to look at those areas. Really what we're looking at now doesn't show a significant change in terms of staffing. There may be some, extended contracts. It really just depends on how students register. And I don't see that being a long-term significant staffing impact. A lot of it is just shifting around with resources, but wanted to make you aware, and I'd certainly be able to answer any questions if you have them related to what Mr. Gaylor has put together so far for course offerings. I think it was Dr. Larson had mentioned previously a little bit of an update on the transportation, the new transition point at the high school and how that's gone. I try to get some insight from Mr. Gaylor and Jeanette Grabinger at Dietrich's Bus Service. From Dietrich's, the only concern has been exiting the high school campus on 12th, and I think anybody that has ever dropped off a child off 12th, that's a challenge. And I'm sure that they're thinking about going up to 13th, and there's a few different ways around getting on 12th, but that's certainly something that is a challenge for anybody traveling on 12th certain times of the day. And really the biggest positive, and that's something that we've talked about before, but the biggest positive from Dietrich's standpoint is just getting some of our elementary riders home as quickly as possible, and then eliminating the transition point for high school students at all. They're getting on at the transition point. So that's eliminating some ride time for them as well. From Mr. Gaylor's perspective, really the biggest transition or the biggest concern is just the time of day, the glare from the sun, walking across a busy parking lot. And those are just things to continue to monitor. And then one other area to monitor is piling of snow during the winter months and how that could impact that transition point. And we might just be moving that snow to a different location, but in the past it has collected right in that same transition spot. So that's just something we'll need to keep aware of. I do have a couple different additional documents that you can review as time allows, including the NDSBA School Board Member Toolkit. That's something that we received from, or that was updated and shared at the NDSBA annual conference. And then I also included the bullying protocol documentation tool. He recently approved the updated bullying policy. This is a protocol that I created that helps ensure that when an investigation of bullying does take place, that it follows all aspects of the law. So if you would ever be interested, you could certainly take a look at what the law states and how that protocol tool takes you through that whole process to ensure that you're conducting a complete investigation. So with that, I stand for questions.
Any questions or comments for Dr. Leck? Diane?
It's a comment. I just wanted to say hats off to the idea of bringing together the leaders to talk with you and give you ideas, the leadership panel. I think that's an outstanding idea, and it must have been very productive. The other thing is the communications committee. I just want to comment that Dr. Larson is an excellent choice for that committee. As you probably know, she's very well connected around town and at the college, and I really commend you for that. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Dr. Leck? Heidi?
I know that it's just kind of a draft with the high school offerings, and I think it's exciting to see different options for our students. With the university so close by in proximity to the high school, has there been conversations there with maybe assisting, especially some of those AP dual credit, those upper level kind of courses?
I do know the conversations have happened between Dr. Olson and Mr. Gaylor in terms of all manners of possibilities to, the level to which those come to fruition. I think it's pretty early to say that, but I know they've had, quite a few conversations about how we could continue to partner.
Any other questions or comments for Dr. Leck? Okay. Well, with that, then, we will move on into board education with the strategic competency transportation analysis. Sally?
Thank you. You have the written report there. We felt, at this time, if you remember, the school board purchased a van in 2018, September of 2018. So since it was just about a full fiscal year in 18-19 that we had the van, it would be good to update you on some of the efficiencies and cost savings that this van, has allowed. The primary benefit obviously has been for transportation for student activities, and other benefits include transporting students to community work-based sites and also for professional development, but obviously the primary. So what was done, I took and evaluated the expenditures, which include, the transportation costs for 17-18 and 18-19, which is any transportation costs which include van rentals for those 2 years. And as you can see in the written document that I did, that showed a savings in that area of over $18,000, $18,339.02, okay? The other benefit that the district has seen, and it's not a hard, fast number, is mileage for reimbursement to professional development activities, because professional development activities can change from year to year. So it's not like we can say this is exact number of, how that operates. But in my written document, I just gave an example. Last summer, there were, 6 to 12 people attending a PLC in Minneapolis. So typically, there would be a lot more vehicles than only two vans going. So if you did that calculation, we'd probably be paying 3 vehicles. It would be at least mileage of over $1,000, $1,218. By the ability to use the school van, I took and did a new calculation, Steve, of mileage of 58 cents for those mileage to Minneapolis. So it would have, it cost $406. So that was a significant savings. So, and there's other savings that you just can't, put a mark on, but those are obviously the 18,000. So it's nice to see the efficiencies and the, and the benefit of the district purchasing that van. And I told, Adam Gaylor, if you do have questions on the student use of the vehicle, since Mr. Gaylor was going to be here, if you have questions on that, he would be happy to answer them. But if you have any questions?
Like student activities?
Not student.
Or do you mean student activities?
No, student, for
Experiences.
the work experience. Did I say student? Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
student, yeah, we have students. If you have any questions, just let me know, or Adam would be happy. Yep.
Just real quick, we purchased 2 vans or just one?
One.
Okay, I was under the assumption for some reason we had 2 vans, sorry.
Just one.
Thank you.
Well, that is clearly in just a short time, we've gotten some nice usage and savings from that. So as we continue to have that van, we should continue to see those savings. So that is showing its dividends already. Roger?
I don't have a question, but I just have a comment to make that before we had these vans, I mean, there was transportation of kids like to golf events and stuff and golf clubs in the back of these vans and cars and so on. So the safety of transporting some of these kids to these events in a van is, I mean, much safer. So I'm glad we did that.
Any other questions or, Diane?
Just a comment that, it's a financial savings, but it's also demonstrating that our district is concerned about energy efficiency and basically saving the planet. So I like that. Thank you.
Very good. Any other questions or comments related to the van? Sally?
Jason, we did purchase one van, and at the time, we ordered, because our van that we transport mail in and do a lot of hauling in, we ordered that van. In fact, I just got a call from Jerome, and that is finally in. I mean, because our van is 1996 last legs. I mean, yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, so you won't find it on your agenda, but we did have, we're blessed to have a new agenda item for our board education on PBLs. So we have Natalie Schrader with us tonight that is going to go through what her students did. So I will just go ahead and hand it over to you. And thank you for coming.
I didn't make enough copies for everybody, sorry. We can share. We can just share. Okay, I'm Natalie Schrader. I teach here at the middle school in 7th grade. I'm part of the Alpha House. I teach English. So my team and I, so that consists of myself, Mrs. Hochhalter, who teaches math, Mr. Skunberg in science, and then Mr. Tews in history. We attended a PBL training, which stands for Project-Based Learning, a few summers ago that was provided by our district. And you could do it as an individual teacher, or you could do it as, you could create something as a group. So we decided to do an interdisciplinary unit, which is part of the middle school philosophy, is to make connections across content areas. So we decided to do that together. Initially, we chose to do a day. So I have a schedule. So this year, when we did it, it was on Thursday, October 24th. And that just kind of gives you you don't need to know exactly what we did that day, but we started with a walk to water. And the walk to water comes from the novel, A Long Walk to Water, which is based in Sudan. And that has 2 character accounts. So it's one in 2008 of a girl who walks 8 hours every day to water for her family. So she walks to a pond and back. And the conditions of the water are very poor. It's kind of disgusting. So that's one way that we really intrigue kids with this storyline, because it's something that we really take for granted, is the water that we have such easy access to. And then the other point of view in the story is from 1985 of a character named Salva, and he's actually a real person who was born in Sudan, and he was raised during a really war-torn time in Sudan. So he ends up walking to Ethiopia and then to Kenya. He's actually one of the lost boys that eventually comes to America. And then the 2 stories come together at the very end of the novel. Salva brings Naya, that's the girl's name. He brings a water well to her village. So it's really it's a different cultural experience for the kids, because like I said, some of them have never even left Jamestown. So it's a way for them to just, again, be kind of more grateful, more thankful, be in tune with things that are happening around the world. So that's one of the fun things for me. Our question that I always ask kids while we're going through the novel is, how does culture, time, and place affect you? And that's a big question for them to really think about. They don't think about how are my experiences in the United States or in North Dakota or in Jamestown different than someone in a different part of the world. So in English, we read the novel and we do lots of different activities with it leading up to it. Once we finish the novel, we do a team PBL day. So that is where we have the kids walk. So if you were around the school on Thursday, October 24th, you might have noticed there were some kids walking with gallon-sized jugs of water around the school. So we had them walk 4 times one direction and 4 times the other way to signify the walk to water and the walk back. And then they had, they came inside and we did 4 rotations. In my room, we watched a video about drilling in Sudan. So they got, again, to put a little bit of a mental picture to the conditions. And then in science, they did water purification. Math, they calculated distance, rate, and time. And then in history, they read a refugee article. So they do those rotations, and then they come back, and they get to choose one of 4 projects, which is on the other side of that sheet of paper. So in small groups, they could do a video documentary, a 1-pager, a water purification poster, or create a water route map. So they work all afternoon, and then at the end of the day, we come down and we share the projects here in Thompson. So it's kind of a work in progress. This is actually 1 year we kind of ran into weather, so we could only do the walk, and then the second year we got to do the full day, and then this year again we got to do the full day. But it was nice because we had some examples, or we kind of knew what we were doing this year. So it was just really nice to have the training where we could get all of this organized and make it standards-based and not just fun, because it's fun to make connections, but it's also nice to have content, bring that in and make sure that there's learning objectives and things like that. So I did just bring, I don't have a documentary, but they do really like doing the video documentary and interviewing each other and asking them how they feel during the walk. This was just an example of a map. Nothing. We did have them walk to, I think it's Nikias Park to the north. We had them walk there 1 year, and I think we're going to go back to having them walk to the park and fill in the water there and then walk back. We found that was just kind of a little bit more meaningful for them rather than just going around the school. I brought a couple 1-pagers. The 1-pager is the English project, so just kind of their connections that they make between the novel. Some of them got really creative. A 1-pager is supposed to cover the entire page with color and images. Some of them did a really nice job. And then the water purification. It's just one example. So you might have seen some of them in the hallway if you've been walking around the middle school too. But that's kind of it. Do you have questions for me?
Well, thank you so much, and I think we do. So, Bob?
It would be a big project, but have you given any thought ever to building a well in a community? I think the last I heard it was around $7,500, so it wouldn't be small. But
In years past, Yvette Yatskis and Belinda Dahl would collect money that would be sent to Water for Sudan, which is the character's company. What they found is it was kind of hard to get people in Jamestown excited and willing to give their money to something that's so far away. So that's where we do a food drive. I guess I forgot to mention that. And then we work with our counselors and we give that food to families in the middle school, from the middle school. But now we have the food bank here, so we ended up just donating it this year. I would love to do, I know Kiwanis has the Feed My Starving Children. They do that on a Saturday, though, so for us to get our kids there, and I did talk to someone a couple years ago and said, if you do it on a weekday, we can guarantee 100 people will be there. We'll have them there. So I think that would be really neat to see. That would be a cool connection for them to make, too. But we haven't quite been able to figure that out. And a lot of those packing things, that costs money. You have to pay them to come to you and pack the food. So it's kind of where we've gotten hung up a few times.
Great. Jason?
Do you see any other houses in the school doing PBLs?
Yes. Yep. There's a few others. I know the Deltas, they do an Ann Carlson PBL. I guess I don't know exactly how it ties into all of their different curriculums, but I would say each house kind of has a go-to, I think. But like it's a middle school philosophy. It's part of the middle school philosophy. So it would be nice to, even if 1 to 2 teachers, it's hard to do 4 or more. It takes a lot of planning. And again, you want it to be academic and not just fun. So kind of finding that balance is, you want it to be a meaningful experience, but also really get down to the learning that's involved too. So, but yes, I would say that each house has something.
I would agree that PBLs, they serve a wonderful purpose, but sometimes you can find some PBLs that it's like, but this definitely, with grabbing into all 4 sections and really getting the kids to dive deep, it's a lot of critical thinking that's happening in our 12-year-olds in Jamestown, and that's really good. Dr. Leck, did you have a comment?
I just wanted to comment and recognize the whole team, and really, I think you've seen a pretty brief snapshot of a lot of planning that goes into an activity like this to make it relevant, and just recognize the team that really did take the extra effort and time to make sure that this was a relevant project, and tying the learning, as has been referenced, together in different subject areas. That isn't easy, and it takes a lot of work. And so, thank you to you and the team to making sure that you provide this kind of experience, learning experience for our students.
Thank you.
Any other question? Oh, Diane?
Yes, I just wanted to comment that every time a teacher or an administrator comes before the school board, I am so impressed. This is just fantastic. And I actually have a 6th grader in my home, and I'm so looking forward to this project when he's a 7th grader. I mean, this is just something else, and I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Well, and thank you for joining us tonight.
Yes,
We do
thanks for having
appreciate
me.
it. So we'll go ahead and pass our books down so she can take those back. And while she's doing that, we'll go ahead and get ready to move on in our agenda into letter E, the strategic plan goal review. Number 1 is the Marzano Teacher and Leader Evaluation Framework. Dr. Leck?
So thank you. You do have Board Memo 50, which outlines this area. I think we're all familiar with the fact that we use Marzano as our research-based teacher evaluation tool. We also use it for our administrators. That is their evaluation tool as well. I've outlined, we spend a lot of time sometimes talking about Domain 1. We spend a lot of focus on Domain 1, and I have outlined I want to find it for you here, on the second page, which talks about all of the different domains. Domain 1 is classroom strategies and behaviors, and like I said, we spend a lot of time there, but we also have 3 other domains. Domain 2, planning and preparing. 3, reflecting on teaching, and 4, collegiality and professionalism. They're all important to being, a teacher, and we want to make sure that we're providing appropriate support. We talk about coaching for growth in all of those areas, and there's a total of 60 elements in those 4 domains. And when we talk about teaching being a complex profession, that's a good example. When an administrator walks into a classroom, there's 60 different elements that they may be looking at to say, well, this is what I'm observing, and this is where they're at on that. This is what I'm observing, and this is what I see on that scale, on that continuum. And so they say, this is what I'm seeing, and then they provide actionable feedback. This was a great example of whatever element. Have you considered doing X, or have you... it might be a good idea to talk to Mr. So-and-so. They did a project similar to this, and he did it this way. All of those types of things that take an awful lot of time, and from an administrator standpoint, we've asked that they, our gold standard is 5 hours of observation and feedback each week. That's a lot. That's a significant amount of time devoted by a building level administrator to instructional leadership. It's important. We want, that's what we're looking for. But it's a great deal of amount of time. And probably the best way we can quantify that is looking at a whole year and saying, well, what does that really mean? So one of the things I provided in this memo was, we had 1,062 observations conducted across the district by administrators last year. That's significantly more than what we did prior to adopting a research-based evaluation process. It's significantly more. I can tell you from being a building principal, that's a lot more than what the old model supported. And in those 1,062 observations, 4,519 elements were reviewed and then given feedback. Again, that's 4.5 elements for every observation. Again, that's a significant amount of time, not just to observe, but to provide the feedback as well. And again, the standard that we hope to have is that as soon as we're walking out of a classroom, that's sent to a teacher. Now, that doesn't happen all the time. It's sometimes there's more to say, and there's things that you want to you want to provide, but that's really the standard of what we hope to see. Because I can tell you from being a teacher, when somebody was observing in my classroom, I wanted to know what they saw. And that's a great opportunity for growth. And so that's one of the standards that we have is that 5 hours of actionable feedback. And for administrators, we use, as I mentioned, we also use the Marzano Leader Framework, and that has 5 domains: data-driven focus on student achievement, continuous improvement in instruction, a guaranteed and viable curriculum, cooperation and collaboration, and the last is 5 school climate, and that has a total of 24 elements in those 5 domains. In terms of the other piece of progress monitoring, I wanted to bring attention to Steve Dunn is a training that we brought in. One of the areas that we have recognized and supported in data that we still need to continue to get better is writing. It was targeted in our literacy lens audit. It's been supported, like I said, in our data. We need to get better there. We're striving to improve our writing. And so we're starting with focusing on K1, 2, 3 teachers across the district, and then providing training as well in 4, 5, 6 in the 2020-2021 school year. That includes 17 writing workshops across those levels annually. And those are full-day trainings. Steve Dunn comes in for all 17 of those trainings. The feedback we've gotten back so far is really, really strong. We feel like it's research-based, it's evidence-based, and the feedback we've gotten from the teachers that have instituted this so far has been very, very positive. And it is, building capacity right now our K1, 2, 3 teachers in a way that maybe didn't happen at the university level. It's practical. This is how we can best support writing for our young students, our youngest of students. How do you build that process? And I'm sure at some point we'll think about providing some additional board education on what that might look like. But like I said, the early returns are very, very good. And I think from an old English teacher, I love to see what they're doing at such an early level with planning and organizing their thoughts and bringing that eventually then to fruition in writing. But it's something that I'm very excited about, and it seems like it is a great initial step in that area as well. But with that, I would stand for questions.
Any questions for Dr. Leck? Okay, thank you for that complete report on that. And so then we'll move on to number 2, the advanced ed engagement and review and important goals. Mr. Hagelin.
Hello, how are you guys tonight?
Pretty good.
All right. Okay, so just wanted to update you on what we've been working on with in relationship to the advanced ed strategic plans goals. Our advanced ed visit a couple years ago pointed out 2 areas. Both of them were process areas, developing a process for data analysis and developing a process for curriculum development. So developing that process is, a step-by-step thing that we go through to try to make improvements. And a lot of things that we've been doing with with just in all across the district in different areas have been contributing to that. To start with, last year we began looking at quarterly having data reviews with our district and school improvement committee. So at the end of the first quarter, and then at semester time, and then again at the end of the year. We didn't do third quarter because that deals with, there are no benchmark tests we do with some of our assessment pieces. But we looked at things, those teams looked at, school teams looked at attendance data, their academic at-risk data, state assessment data, their assessment data from STAR reading, STAR math assessments, and also our student engagement survey data that we do as part of our advanced ed state, as our state requirement. So we started developing that process, just looking at the data. We've always had a lot of data available as a school, but what we actually do with it was something that we needed to work on. So we've been looking at that and looking at coming up with goals based on that data, those different sets of data. And it's been interesting even this year now with the addition of the Steve Dunn the writing workshop piece. That was a piece that Steve even brought in, was using assessment to make decisions about instruction. And I guess that's what we've been really working on and looking at, is how we can use different data pieces to help us do a better job with instruction. So everything from making decisions about what we're doing with EL instruction or intervention instructions and intervention programs and things like that. So we're moving along that road. We still have a ways to go, but we've started doing a lot more work with looking at those data pieces. The second process that we were looking at was the curriculum development process. Curriculum development has really changed a lot in probably the way that we view curriculum. Years ago, curriculum was the textbook that you purchased. That's what the curriculum was. It was, more emphasis was on, am I getting a new book this year than what am I teaching this year? And, and that's been a big shift with the introduction of standards and our work with standards and doing the work with prioritizing standards and identifying actually what is being taught in classrooms. And then that's the actual curriculum development, identifying what is being taught and trying to build some consistency across the district with those things. A lot of that is coming down to work that's going along with identifying prioritized standards. Our PLC work now will contribute to that work and help us identify those common standards that we are targeting in our classrooms, and so that's been a big piece of that curriculum development process. We've also formed a curriculum committee that will look at more the resources piece of it. We're currently looking at what resources we are using across the district, looking at copyrights and things like that, because we still have to update our materials and update our resources, but the emphasis has changed to more of a look at the actual standards, what we are teaching, and trying to put together curriculums based on what is being taught in the classrooms and not on which textbook we're purchasing. So that's where we're at with those two pieces.
Well, thank you, Mr. Hageland. Are there
bet.
any questions for Mr. Hageland? Jason?
Just real quick, the Steve Dunn writing curriculum, does that come with a built-in assessment component, or what would that look like for the rating?
The piece that Steve went through, actually his curriculum, and he packages it as a curriculum, has pieces of assessment. There's pacing guides and assessments built in, so teachers can look at where they're at, and get some. Those assessments are more what we call formative assessments, things that are just done on the fly that teachers are real brief, done more routinely than some of our bigger assessment pieces like our summative or interim assessments that are done 3 times a year or once a year and stuff. So the pieces tied to curriculum, like Steve is doing, are the more formative pieces, and that really is where that's where we need to get to, because that's what affects it. That's what impacts instruction. That's how we really will measure student growth, is by those pieces. So yeah, Steve's program and his training has a lot of, that assessment piece built into it.
Any other questions?
Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
All right.
Haglund.
Thank you.
Moving on in our agenda, we have nothing under old business, so we'll move into new business. And we have nothing under activities, so then we'll move into buildings and grounds. Can I have a motion to approve the temporary easement for entry and construction of the Safe Routes to School grant project at the Jamestown Middle School? Motion by Bob, second by Jason. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We have nothing under curriculum, assessment, and instruction, so then we'll move on into finance. Can I have a motion to approve the North Dakota Tech Savvy STEM-Stastic grant? Motion by Roger, second by Heidi. Any discussion? I will just offer that this is a fantastic program, and I'm so thankful that our middle school students are able to participate in this. I always hear rave reviews, and I try to take a day off from work to help, because it is such an important and fun thing for our students to participate in. With that, any other? All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving into... Oh, thank you. Okay. Can I have a motion to approve to submit the SARE grant? Motion by Jason, second by Roger. Any discussion? Is that? Mr. Gaylor, did you have any comments that you wanted to provide on the SARE grant? That's my apologies. I should have talked to you before we even got that far.
So as Dr. Leck had mentioned, that's a collaborative effort, so you can see some partners involved in that. And SARE is an organization that promotes sustainable agricultural research. And so we see the benefits of that program, not just for the ag program, but also for our other science areas, particularly chemistry, environmental science, even biology, and looking at soil health over time with that project.
Wonderful, wonderful. Any questions or comments? Oh, Dr. Leck?
Can you talk a little bit about what Blue Jay Acres may look like? I mean, just a vision for what a project like that, I mean, it's amazing. I mean, that is really a visionary type of thought with what you're talking about. And it'd be nice if you could just share a little bit about what your vision is for that.
Sure. So we started that conversation last summer and are involving some local producers in making sure that that it's a sustainable project, that they're willing to help contribute to the harvest. And then we've been working with specifically with Cenex a little bit on being able to get some of the seed and the agronomy work and research done that's necessary with that. And then with the Soil Conservation District on what types of sustainable practices we could model. And everyone that we bump in, we've worked with Jason and Ag Country on that as well. Looking at the financial aspect, everybody that we bump into on this, it's always, yes, how can we help? And so at this point, we've established the partners. The student groups have looked at splitting that area, which is about 27 acres, into 4 different parcels of 3 to 5 to 7 acres, depending on how the land actually lays, and then putting buffer strips in between. And the idea is to do different field trials or demonstration plots in each of those areas, and then monitor how soil health and plant health and yield and all of those things change over time. And so it's a really long-term project. what this grant is written for is to integrate those sustainable practices and get that language into what we're doing, but then also to offset some of the initial costs, so then those students can have future funds from the harvest then, ideally, to put forward towards the project. SARE seems like their mission aligns a lot with what the goals of the group has talked about, and we're pretty excited about the grant. I don't know how competitive it is, but I did send it on to the research extension agent in Carrington, who is listed as one of the state advisors for SARE, and he thought it was a pretty encouraging grant proposal, so we'll see how that goes. If not, like I said, we found a lot of people that have said yes to supporting and getting this project off the ground and growing, no pun intended. So.
Well, to be able to do this at the high school level, what an experience for our students. These are things that you don't always see at the high school level. So very, very good with getting that going. Jason?
Can I just add one thing at our meeting that I thought was really cool too, is there's a little bit of discussion on doing temporary or every other week or whatever test plot type deals to invite the public to, so students would prepare research results, what they're finding, open to the public, maybe to, to those cooperating. I thought that was a great idea, and I just sat here thinking, A Country's going to do a financial simulation type thing as far as operating loan and whatnot, but we'll probably throw a little marketing in there too to try to get them as much money, obviously, from their product as we can. So we're excited also.
Heidi, did you have a comment?
I just wanted to make a comment on this and all the other things that are going on in our district. It takes a lot of, whether it's the grant that Mr. Gaylor's working on or other teachers are working on, or the PBL in the middle school by Natalie. It takes a lot of extra work, time, and effort, and thinking outside the box. And I really appreciate everybody's time. These are things that are extra that they're working on to really make an impact on our students' learning, and I just am very appreciative of it. So thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Mr. Gaylor. Sorry to put you on the spot like that. Oh, Jason?
Sorry, I just did have one question about the vans, Mr. Gaylor.
Oh, the van. Oh,
Just real quick, is it going well, scheduling? Are we having a lot of is that going okay?
So it was a bit of a process to get that going last fall. Now what we've ended up doing, our activities department, the secretary there does a lot of the scheduling. It's kept on my calendar, so then I can, or a separate calendar that I also have access to, so then I can approve or deny the requests. And really what we've shifted to is using the same transportation request that we do for all other transportation. We haven't had a lot of conflicts. We've tried to prioritize our student work experience, and that's scheduled throughout the week. But then we have to evaluate each situation when things come up. So if a kid's going to work experience at Dr. Don's pet shop, and that's Thursday at 2 o'clock, and the girls' golf team needs to go to Williston, and they're going to be leaving much earlier. Well, we evaluate the cost of that too, and we say, well, we're going to use transit to transport the kid to Don's pet shop, and then so any day that we can, we use it for what that student use is during the day. But obviously, we weigh out those costs, and we haven't had a lot of conflict. It's always going someplace, though. It's pretty exciting to see, and obviously the recognition of our district too, and that's rolling down the road. That's always cool too. So thank you.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second on the table to approve the SARE grant. So we'll go ahead and call for that. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on in the agenda to letter C, can I have a motion to approve to submit the new team growth grant? And as I understand, this will be if we don't receive the NASA grant? Okay. Motion by Roger. Second by Melissa. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on to letter D, can I have a motion to approve the monthly financial report? Motion by Greg. Second by Steve. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on in our agenda to personnel, can I have an approval for the motion to approve the resignation of Belinda Dahl at the conclusion of the 2019-2020 school year? Heidi?
So moved, and thank you for your years of service for the district.
Yes. And second by Roger. Any discussion? And yes, thank you so much for your years of service, and my daughter enjoys your class. All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on into policy and procedures, can I have a motion to approve letter A, the second reading of the school year calendar policy ABAB? Motion by Greg. Second by Roger. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on to letter B, can I have a motion to approve the second reading of the school board evaluation policy BEC? Motion by Melissa. Second by Jason. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on to letter C, can I have a motion to approve the second reading of the summer school policy, GACD? Motion by Roger. Second by Melissa. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Can I have a motion to approve letter D, the approval of the second reading of the bullying policy, ACEA? Motion by Diane. Second by Greg. Any discussion? All those in favor, Jason?
Just real quick, the bullying protocol, then, that will be just part of this policy or just used if the policy needs to be enacted?
It would be considered an exhibit, but it's just a protocol tool. It's an investigatory tool for a building administrator who's ever in charge of investigating a claim of bullying.
Any other questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on to letter E, can I have a motion to approve the second reading of the hazing policy, ACEB? Motion by Jason. Second by Roger. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on to letter F, can I have a motion to approve the second reading of the vandalism policy, ACEC? Motion by Diane. Second by Melissa. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We have nothing under tuition, so moving into our other business. Can I have a motion to approve the contract with TSA Consulting Group? Motion by Roger. Second by Greg. Any discussion? Sally, did you want to provide any context?
This is a third-party administrator. The school districts, in a public business, it's a 401K, and the school district has 403Bs, tax-sheltered annuities, that an employee can sign up for to save money pre-tax. Over the course of time, and it's probably been I don't know how long ago now, 5 years ago or so, the laws changed, and they changed the laws to have 403Bs enact like 401Ks. And basically, the school district we have a plan document, which we have to have. And when someone wants to withdraw money or when they retire and they want to transfer money, the school district, me, signs off on that, okay? And we have to know all the laws And so I think it's prudent. I know all the past employees, I've been here long enough, but I still think it's prudent for the liability of the district to make sure, that someone that deals with it on a day in and day out basis, there's new laws coming for the plan document. So it's more of a security for the district. It doesn't cost the district anything. That company, charges a $2 fee to the agent, not the person, to do this per month. And so they will take care of the plan document and, all the legalities. They also have a service where we mail out checks from the employees, to the companies. We can also, access and run those payments through this company. So they will just take care of, everything for us, and there's not a charge to us, but we will remain legal as far as following a plan document.
Any questions, Heidi?
Do other districts do this?
For a long time.
Okay. Any other questions or comments for Sally? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right. If you have any items for future agenda, you can mention it now, or email myself or Dr. Leck would be fine. Okay. And then our meetings to be scheduled, we have quite the list here. So this Thursday, November 21st at 3:30 p.m. in the district conference room is the Health Insurance Committee. Then also on Thursday, November 21st, at the bunker from 11 to 12:30, there is the Transitioned House Thanksgiving open house, but please do RSVP if you're able to attend. And you can do that to Amy. And then we have the school board referendum review meeting on Monday, November 25th, 5:15, in the district conference room. And then we have this district school improvement meeting on Thursday, December 5th at 3:30 in this room here. And then we'll have another health insurance committee meeting on Monday, December 9th at 3:30 in the conference room. And our next school board meeting, regular school board meeting, will be Monday, December 16th, here in the Thompson Community Room. And then our school board retreat will be January 6th in the district conference room. Heidi.
At one of our next meetings, fall sports should be wrapped up and maybe have a report. And we can do maybe all athletics and fall activities and fine arts that have been going on.
Fine arts too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That would be a great addition to our agenda. Hopefully in December we can get that. Thank you for that. Anything else? Okay, don't forget to right-click on the adjournment on your agenda and to do your monthly superintendent. And with that, the meeting is adjourned.